one of the greatest things about the US market is how much kind of money and revenue there is to be made for kind of recruitment agencies. So I know we both work with a lot of UK headquartered businesses, but obviously with a bigger market, bigger margins, bigger fees comes with the complexities of kind of navigating the payment side. What payments are you going to accept? Currencies, the exchange. I know when we last spoke, we touched on commissions even, what rates are you going to agree for your consultants when they're billing, invoicing, or getting paid out commissions. So there's some of the things we can dive into today.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it'd be great just to kind of dive first of all just into, okay, I'm a UK recruitment founder, CEO, looking to start into the US market. I've set myself up operationally, not yet incorporated or registered a business, so I can't actually get myself a physical bank account because I've not got an EIN number. What do you see or advise most of your clients getting set up as a solution to be able to receive international payments specifically from the US?
So in terms of setting up the business itself and actually deciding to make that jump and going over to the US is a big one on its own, and that's obviously where you guys come in and providing so much support to these businesses. The next thing is to work out kind of how they're going to attack that and in what market they're going to go into, and almost a little bit backwards. The last thing people end up doing is then kind of having a bank account and setting up and deciding whether it's actually feasible to do so. What was worked really well for so many recruitment companies that we've been working with, and I suppose I've been lucky enough to have a lot of friends that have started recruitment companies, so I've heard it from the start and what the journey's been, is that through the UK company, what we've actually been able to do is provide US based accounts for these recruitment companies. So obviously, first and foremost, the guys are going out to the States. They're trying to create these relationships, trying to actually generate some revenue. What these accounts actually enable them to do is receive the dollars, local currency, into a US dollar account, which is paid domestically. So as far as the client in the US is concerned, they are paying into a US dollar account in the name of ABC Recruitment Limited, that's paid straight into their account and then is received by the client. That's the first stage, and that's what's really important. What can then happen is obviously setting up the US account in the name of the US business as and when they're ready. But that kind of transition is really important, I think, because it allows them to start doing business before having that presence, really.
Yeah, and we always advise that like to set up a business in the US is going to be high risk, high cost. So the fact you've got a solution like that you can be seen to be, ABC recruitment, it's a domestic account, you're not going to be hit, with what you might be with international wire transfers, is an amazing solution.
Exactly that. So when we're saying domestic payments, the usual payment methods that are paid across the States are ACH or FedWire. You reference that to any accounts payable team in the States, they'll know exactly what you're referring to, and they'll know that no charges come with that as well, which is always pretty important for them.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of our clients as well, where they've not set up a local a kind of virtual account or a business account, they'll always say to us, what about checks? And I'm like, as advanced as the US is in so many ways, banking can actually be a bit behind in some ways. So do you hear a lot about checks?
Well, believe it, we still do. We still do. I literally had a message last night from wasn't a recruitment client, but somebody that I've worked with for 10 years, saying they've just had this check come through. They don't really know what to do. Their bank can't deal with it, and can we? Unfortunately, we can't. It is something that would have to be addressed by the recruitment company or the client to say that, look, we can't accept the checks, but here's a US denominated account that you can pay into as a domestic payment.
Yeah, we sometimes say to clients now, it's actually worth writing into your terms and conditions or terms of business, ACH transfers or wire transfers, like don't accept checks because they can always take months as well.
But that's the thing. If you do eventually find any sort of establishment that can cash a check, you're going to be waiting months.
Yeah. If I am ABC Recruitment sat here in the UK, I've got a live deal on the table that's likely to close in 2 weeks. I guess there's kind of two parts to the question. How long would it take me to set up an account to be able to invoice my client? And would I have to have an operation going already in the US? Would I have to, have been working in the US already to get that in place and make sure that I can raise an invoice and be paid for that particular role?
Yeah, so in answer to the first part of the question, how long does it take to set the account up? So there'll be a few things that our onboarding team will need to know, and that is, generally speaking, is there genuine business being done through the business? Is there a need for that? And can you prove that there is a service or a product that's being bought or sold? Which obviously for all of these guys are going to be really simple. It's done by invoices or so on. And that kind of leads on to the next part of the question, which is, do you already have to have an operation or essentially a business going on in the US to be able to prove that? And the answer is no. What we're looking to establish here is the business genuine? Is there a real reason to go and conduct that business? And then when it comes to the receiving of funds from a client in the US, what we will need to see, especially initially, is some form of invoice, or even if you haven't got to that stage yet, some form of contract terms that everybody will have, just to show this is the service that we're providing and this is who's going to be paying us. That then paints a picture of what that business is going to be doing. Now, there obviously is, of course, transaction monitoring and making sure that all of our clients are acting in a safe and appropriate manner. But by no means does that mean that there's going to be time delays and checks on every single payment just to make sure that you're still doing what you said you're doing. It takes it's quite a pragmatic approach to that side of things, and making sure that as long as everything is above board and we have performed our checks, that process is as smooth as possible.
Yeah, makes sense. And say we fast forward 6 months doing business and doing my perm placements, 40k average fees and generating revenue really quite quickly. I'm now looking to pull some of that money out of my US dollars account. What kind of advice or service can you give in terms of, locking in rates? When is the right time? Actually, Maria, wait a bit, get to this amount of revenue in the bank, maybe stagger it. What do you see most kind of clients look to do once they've generated, a few $100,000 in the account?
Yeah, so what we're typically finding is that because the investment essentially is coming from the UK account or the UK business, that what the teams will typically do is receive the dollars into your account, obviously keep some of the dollars in that currency to pay the operational costs and keep things ticking, but ultimately start to repatriate it back to sterling as and when you go. In terms of when is the right time, our team can provide support and information on market trends and so on, to try to combat missing out on any huge moves. But ultimately, one of the good ways in which you can do that is by averaging the price. So if you know that you absolutely have to bring some dollars back into sterling to pay operational costs, that to manage risk effectively, what you want to avoid doing is kind of letting it all build up and saying, oh, we need to do it within this 1 week period, because then you're at the mercy of the markets. And if the markets have moved 5, 10, 15% in that time, that's directly off the bottom line. So move it, kind of progressing now a little bit in terms of how you can then protect yourself. There are ways in which we can support clients by, as you mentioned, locking in rates, but used at a later date. So what I mean by that is something called a forward contract or hedging, essentially. So what you're able to do is say, we are expecting to receive $500,000 in fees over the next 6 months, for example. We need to know how much that's going to come back in sterling. And what you don't want is that number to fluctuate from 350,000 sterling to potentially 300 based on market moves. So you are able, and we can provide you with the capabilities to lock that amount in. So locked in a fixed amount for a fixed period of time at a fixed rate. So as and when you receive those dollars in and you want to repatriate them back into sterling, you're now not having to worry about where the market's gone because you've already locked in your rate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. And would some companies, I guess, when you're generating revenue more regularly, and you've got maybe a better forecast of what's coming in, if you've built a really healthy, strong contract desk, would some people say, do you know what, we're going to hedge, if that's the term, every quarter or twice a year to recoup that money back into the UK?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can, it all depends on the how that client works operationally, and how much they think they're going to need to convert, and obviously how much they've got coming in. But the short answer to that is you can hedge or book a forward contract for anything from 1 week to 2 years, depending on it. And there's super flexibility in that. So exactly.
Massive. And does it ever work the other way? Like, say, you know, you're using your US dollars account to pay your rent, pay client lunches, trips, expenses when you're out there. If you've not done so well in a quarter, or, you know, as well as you thought, and you need to get some UK, you know, currency into US dollars, I'm guessing could it work both ways?
Absolutely. So that's a really good question, actually, and it's probably a good chance for us to explain how the accounts work, because the receiving of the dollars in and receiving dollars via domestic methods is one part of it, but the accounts are actually multi-currency accounts that once you have the account, you have access to any of the permitted currencies. And when you have that account, you can buy and sell any currency pairing that are permitted. You can convert sterling into dollars, you can convert Aussie dollars into US dollars if you wanted to. But you have the full capability of that, and the functionality to be able to convert from sterling to dollars and then pay to third parties if you wanted to. If you wanted to use the account to, once you've received your dollars in from a client, to convert into sterling and then send out to some suppliers or pay some invoices directly in sterling from your account with us, you can do that as well.
Okay, so if you've generated a nice chunky amount in the US account, and maybe a UK account's running a bit lower than you thought it would be, you can tap in.
Yeah, exactly that.
Love it. And commission. So I've talked about this a bit with some UK consultants that are purely working the US market. So they're getting paid their salaries, their commission in UK currency, but all of their deals are US dollars. How do you see, or do you have any insight in at all, like how most recruitment agencies are structuring or locking in that FX when it comes to comms and paying out the consultants?
Yeah, that's such an important question, because when you are selling in a different currency, or you're domiciled in a currency thanks to your clients, you're then paying the guys in a different currency, what percentage that you have confirmed with them and agreed to pay them really differs, and you're liable then, or you're at mercy to what the exchange rate then does. So what's really important to do is make sure that the percentage that you're agreeing with the team is based on X exchange rate. So you know exactly where that sits, and then it's important to manage the risk on that as well, and that's where those forward contracts can come in. So if you know that if you know that you've got $100,000 worth of business coming in over, again, let's just use 6 months as an example, it's important to lock that figure lock that rate in, so that your dollar amount and your sterling amount are locked, so you know exactly how much sterling coming in, and you know what you can pay your consultants at that point.
De-risk yourself. So I imagine.
And again, on that, what's really important to understand, I think, is that mentioning all these different things, these different accounts, how you can receive money, how you can convert, how you can hedge, how you can do all of this, even though it's they are really simple and effective methods in order to do so, it still can be quite overwhelming when you're left with this account. So I think it's really important to mention that every single client has a dedicated account manager. So everybody, any client that has an account has somebody there that they can speak to. It's not a bot; it's a human that they have a relationship with, that will understand their business, that has done it before with hundreds of other businesses, and will be able to give them the support that they need to navigate effectively.
going to say, you saying it's really simple. I was like, Jack, I think it's simple to you because you know it. I was
Exactly.
like, if you're sat in the ABC recruitment and you're responsible for this, like, and you're talking $500,000, hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, it's an expensive mistake to get wrong.
Absolutely, because the markets can move 5% in a day quite easily. And if you're kind of on the wrong side of that, and I'm not saying we're predicting a market and telling you exactly when to do it, but these are big swings that are out of your control. And in terms of like the clients that are going over to the US, the recruitment companies, whether they're at an early stage or have been established for a long time, they know recruitment. They know that like the back of their hand, that they can sell. Like even to an established finance director, this can still sometimes be a bit of a grey area and how to best deal with it. We're not here to kind of ram products down people's throat. We don't take a fee on any products, on support. Everything that we do is based into transparent margin. What is important for us is providing that value and making sure that clients feel protected and can grow, because that benefits us.
We say it all the time, speak to experts. And I definitely see the most successful leaders and CEOs are the ones that are happy to have help. Like, you know, they're not the experts in everything, so they're open to it. So on that point, and again, this is probably my naivety, so I've now been using your US dollars account for 3 years. I think actually I'm going to get some boots on the ground in the US. I'm going to incorporate, I'm going to register, I'm going to get an EIN number, which could mean that I can open a US business dollar account. But in my head, from what we've just spoken about, I'm not actually going to get that added advice of, you know, the markets, the FX, the lock-in, the rates, all of that. So do you see an added benefit of people going down that route, or do you see a lot of your clients kind of stick with their virtual accounts, business accounts?
If I'm honest, it's a blend. I would never suggest against not getting a bank account, just because there are other functionalities that you can use with the bank account and kind of creating a history in that country. But the majority still use our FX services and payment services. If you kind of look at it on the flip side of that, in the UK, everybody's got a bank account, but we wouldn't exist if nobody wanted to use any other service than that. Yes, you're going to have the services provided by the bank, but you're not going to have that support. You're not going to have competitive exchange rates. Definitely, there are going to be lumpy fees, and you're not going to kind of have that all-round package that can kind of
like responsiveness. You're saying,
exactly,
you know, you've got an account manager.
That's spot on.
And also cultural differences. Like if you are a UK business going over to the US, you will quickly find actually them working with US, you know, in-country partners is very different to working someone who does speak your language, culture. 100%. So I think that's also something that sometimes gets overlooked. That it has massive value.
Definitely.
Trying to think of any things that I've not covered. So transaction timing, is that pretty standard in the US? Would it be long? I know we've spoken about checks, but just ACH, wire transfers, are they pretty standard?
So exactly. So ACH and FedWire are the main domestic payment methods, but you can still receive payments via SWIFT, which is the international payments. Are, do you want me to answer now, or did you want to?
Go on.
Sorry. So you have ACH and FedWire, which are the usual domestic payment methods. So they'll be nice and quick, and the US clients will already know the timings with that. It's like our UK faster payment. You will also have the ability to send and receive payments via SWIFT, which is the international payment method, which people may or may not have heard of. But in terms of actual timings, kind of gone are the days where we would talk about same day payments, or you'll get your payment like next day. As long as it's before currency cutoff, you're going to see a payment turnaround within minutes. And what I mean by that is, if you have dollars in your account, you want to convert that into sterling and get it sent away to third parties, or even sent away to your sterling bank account. That whole process is automated, and as soon as that trade has been settled, the ongoing payment is then released.
Amazing. Speed.
Yeah. It's quite often that you can be on the phone to a client who, because they will have access to an online account, but still the majority of clients like to utilize the account management service. There's quite often that you can be on the phone to clients, and the guys say this quite often, that they'll be on the phone chatting and they'll confirm the trade, confirm a payment, and while they're on the phone, the whole the payment has gone through the entire process and has already landed within their account.
So good. Is there anything I've not touched on that it is a common kind of question or would come up with some of your clients?
No, no, I don't think so. I think that something that's really important to mention is, and we have already touched on this, but is the named account. So whenever you're receiving money into your account, that is an account in your business name, ABC Recruitment Limited. And that's the same for sending out as well. So if you were to send dollars to anybody, or sterling, or any other currency, as far as that beneficiary is concerned, they're receiving it from a bank account in your business name.
Yeah, and that's huge. Even like winning business, doing business, like we always say, you know, Americans are a very proud nation, rightly so. So if you're going to be doing business and wanting to win and retain business in the US, you need to be seen to have been really kind of proactive about being in America, not just I'm a UK business, dipping my toe in, being reactive to deals that land on my desk. Like I always call it a bit of a shop front, and one of those pieces of the puzzles is your banking. Like make sure that you are seen to be professional and you've set yourself up and you're not
100%. 100%, and being able to offer that, being able to offer that service and say to a new US client, yes, absolutely, you can pay us in US dollars. That's what we're well versed in doing, and making that process really slick from the start is vital.
Yeah, love that. And then just aside from international payments, then obviously group, you guys have got different areas that you support in. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about WillU Financial Group as a whole and other areas?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of one of the reasons why recruitment has become a sector that we specialize in so much. It's because the products that we are able to offer, or the services that we're able to offer throughout the businesses, really lend themselves to recruitment companies, growing companies, those going international. So we actually started initially as asset management, directly authorized entity. WillU Invest provides kind of investment opportunities for very mid to long term, low risk investment, pensions, ISAs, that kind of thing. We then started WillU FX, which was obviously spoken about today. We have WillU Life, which is life and health insurance. Again, recruitment companies looking to keep hold of staff, offering them health insurance, shareholder protection, that for the guys that are running the business, that's always been really, really vital for them. At that point, because we'd had quite a niche offering to SMEs, that book of clients grew pretty quickly. The next thing that they were asking us for was general insurance. And
you're again, like, yes, it's coming.
Exactly, pretty much. So we originally partnered with an insurance brokerage, but within months realised there was huge opportunity there. And every single one of our clients needed general insurance. Again, recruitment companies being a big one. I know that there's a policy that looks after startup recruitment companies, but it doesn't automatically grow with your business. Yes, that might be an option, but we've noticed on many occasions that a lot of these people or these companies that have grown over 6 months, 2 years, 3 years to a real decent level of a few million quid up to 10, 20 are not covered at all. So we can provide that support and advice to make sure that they do have the correct cover. We've recently launched WillU Pensions as well, which is workplace pensions. Most of these guys will go through their accountants, which would have automatically diverted them to Nest probably, or maybe the People's Pension. Our offering we believe, far outweighs that. We did a full review in the market, and it actually started with our own pensions that we needed to sort out for our members of staff. So we're really pleased with that. But over the years, we've become a financial services consolidator rather than just a service.
Amazing. And if people want to find you, we'll obviously put your details on this page, but LinkedIn, best way of getting in touch.
LinkedIn's the best. You'll see us shouting away on there quite a lot. Which
Yeah,
is similar
love
to
that.
PGC.
Yeah.
Of course, a website, any socials, Instagram, Facebook even.
Love it.
Yeah, but LinkedIn and the website is your best bet.
Amazing. Well, wicked. Thank you so much for jumping
Thank
on,
you.
Sharing your insights, your knowledge. Love it. As we say, speak to the experts. So anyone watching that has started generating some revenue in the US or thinking about it, hit Jack up and get everything in place to make sure that you are mitigating your risk.
Yeah, 100%. And just on that, there is no obligation to use us at all. Like, we're here, of course we want to take clients on board, but at the end of the day, the support and the advice can come free. So happy to have a chat with anybody.